Welcome to Hoops Companion. Today we're going to be talking about the 5-out offense. We're not going to go into a whole bunch of advantages and disadvantages of the offense, but we are going to talk about the main scheme, spacing, and some rules, and maybe a couple common sets. So obviously in 5-out, here we are in our 5 spots, right? Typically your point guard will be here, your 2 guards will be in the wings, your big guys maybe will be out here in the corners. You can move that around however you please in your offense. Some teams like to start the ball over here and start a big man here. That's another option for 5-out as well. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Main rules in this offense, right? Rule number 1, okay? If you pass, you cut to the rim. You cut to the rim. And we're talking super simple, basic rules right now. We'll talk about advanced rules maybe later, but right now, simple rules. Pass, basket cut, okay? This basket cut needs to be a cut to score, meaning you are trying to score when you cut. Otherwise, it's a waste of time. Why is that important? If one cuts hard here, that makes guys like, or defenders like X5 maybe help. X3 maybe help will be more kind of open to helping, which just opens things up for the flow of the offense. So that's rule number 1, pass, cut. And the last part of rule number 1 is fill, okay? So if this happens, right, if this happens, now we've got 2 with the ball. 1 is cut here. If we're in 5-out, there's 1 spot to go to, right? So that would be the simple movement of 3 cutting up here to replace that spot, 4 replacing here, and now whereas 1 cut over here to 5, no, there's a person there, all right? 1 empties out to the corner, and now voila, we are back in 5-out, okay? That's rule number 1. So that's basically the main premise of the offense. Some teams don't get much further than this. And depending on your level you're coaching, that's okay. And that would continue as this play went, right? The ball gets reversed back here, 2 cuts through, 5 fills, 2 go. So you're just filling the open spots over and over again. That's rule number 1. Rule number 2. Okay, rule number 2 is if somebody dribbles at you, you go backdoor automatically, okay? Now, a dribble at is exactly what it sounds like. Somebody is dribbling right at you. So if 2 decides, I'm gonna dribble at 5, which they might do for a couple of reasons. 1, maybe to alleviate pressure, okay? 2, maybe because 5 is being kind of pressed on pretty tightly here, and we wanna push them back door. But 5 automatically goes back door every single time you're looking for that layup. If that's not there, you keep the dribble. Everybody else, guess what you do? All right, everybody else, now 2's in the corner. 5 cut through. Everybody else, you fill. 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 Boom. All right? That's dribble at option. All right. Rule number 3. If you are, let's change it up a little bit. Let's say 3 cut through, okay? Now, if you are denied, all right, and we use the 3-point line as the kind of deny line, all right? If you are denied while cutting, you absolutely, without question and no hesitation, must go back door, all right? So let's say 2 is coming up to fill like they would in this spot, right? If X2 decides, hey, I'm gonna jump this pass and try and get this steal, I'm gonna deny, all right? I'm gonna deny, I'm not gonna let them reverse this ball. That is an automatic, all right, also, you got 5 and 3 cutting up now. That is an automatic 100% time backdoor cut by 2. And if we can get a layup out of that, that is awesome. All right. So every time there's a denial there, it's an automatic backdoor cut. Let's say two cut through and they didn't get it. Okay, cool. Well, everybody just keeps on filling their spot. And now, guess where we are? We are back in 5-out. 1 would pass it. What would 1 do? 1 would cut through. 4 would fill. 1 would empty out to the open spot. Okay? So that's rule number 3, that's the deny line or read line, depending what you want to call it. Next up, we have rule number 4, which is cut in the direction of your drive. So let's say, we'll come back here again. Let's say we got players in these positions. Let's say one wants to drive it now, okay? One wants to drive it. So if one drives it, see how that's not a dribble at because he's not dribbling at 2, he's dribbling it, okay? Everybody's gonna move, and then I believe this is called circle movement in a lot of areas. Dribble it, just drive, cutting in the direction of the drive, all right? Cutting better basketball kind of had this, they call it circle movement, right? So if 2 drives to the right, everybody else is moving to the right. This takes their defenders with them. This also, now typically here, this is kind of the weird movement that some people don't like, but if 4, you can't go right because you're out of bounds, right? 4 is just gonna cut this baseline here, okay? You'll get backdoors there more than you think, and also, why that happens is because typically if 1 is here, X4 is gonna be pretty here in help, right? Now, obviously, if X4 really helps here, 4 should just stand there and get a kick out, okay? But typically we're gonna cut through there and do circle movement. If the circle movement continues, right, that means 5 is coming this way. And let's take a look at what that looks like. So 1 drove it, 4 cut all the way through here, 5 came behind the ball. I can't remember if this is 2 or 3, but it doesn't matter. 1 has it here. Now, 1 comes to a stop, 1 can kick it out to 2, can kick it out to 3. 5 is coming this way, or they can reverse pivot and kick it out to 5 as the safety valve. You know, maybe 5 drives it right here. And look where we are again, because 1 would just cut back out. And now we're basically back into our 5 out segment, or 5 out setting, okay? Now, what about screens? Can you screen in 5 out? Yeah, you can screen, right? There's screening options. And again, this depends on your team and the level of your team. Your team might not be ready for this, and that's okay. Let's say 1 passes to 2 and you want to screen away. Say 5 is a screen away, kind of like Princeton point action, honestly. 3 can either curl, tight curl, or go back door. Here's the rule that I always taught. Inside out cut is what I would say, right? So 1 set this screen, 3 is right here. Whatever 3 does, 1 does the opposite. So let's say 3 decides to go back door. That means 1 is popping back to the ball. Okay, and then we're 5 out, right? Because if we reverse it here, what would that mean? That would mean 4 would fill up, 3 would come right here, or yeah, and we'd be right back in 5 out. Option 2, let's say that. Let's say 2 decides to pop. All right, what should 1 do? Go to the rim. We want to put rim pressure as much as possible in whatever we are doing. So simple as that, right? And now we're right back into 5 out. Where's the open spot? 4 fills it. 1 comes this way, okay? So those are the very super simple without ball screen options. We'll talk about ball screen stuff at another time, but that's basically the way you can kind of install 5 out for anything that you run, all right? You can make it as flexible as you want. It depends on your players. But let's talk about, one more thing. Let's talk about post-ups. Right? A lot of people complain, well, there's no post-up option. Okay, well, let's see here. How can we be creative and maybe get a post-up? Let's say you want to post up too. All right? Or any player, right? You can make the rule where you post up every cut. What I mean is this, right? So let's say 1 dribbles at 2. Okay? 2 can cut down here. What's 2 typically do? He leaves or she leaves there, and we fill in. Or 2 could come back here to the ball, sit down, and try and pin, right? And if you don't have the angle, maybe you reverse it to 5. And then 5 looks to throw it inside, right? So you can do that as an option as well. All right. Next time we'll talk about ball screens, but that's your basic 5-out offense. Use it however you want to better help your team. If you have questions, I'm always here to help.